I'm Frances Callier.
And I'm Angela V. Shelton.
And we're Frangela.
You know what you need in your life? The Final Word podcast.
Yes, you do.
That's right. It is the final word on all things political and pop cultural.
Where we make real news real funny.
Where we inspire you so you can hashtag resist.
Subscribe and get a new episode of the Final Word podcast each week. It's the news we think you need to hear.
That's right. We think you need to hear it. Okay?
Yeah, it's what we say so.
That's right. And because all we do is give, every Thursday you can listen to our hysterical podcast, Idiot of the Week.
We round up the stupid because you know what? Somebody has to.
Okay. All we do is give.
MSW Media.
Welcome to Feminist Buzzkills Live, the show that will be teaching an AP Cliff Notes course on the achievement of Ron DeSantis. I'm Liz Winstead, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Moji Alabo.
Hello, we're talking about achievement singular, right?
One single
Yes.
achievement.
Oh, singular, small. Yes.
I'm not even sure what it is,
Me neither, but it's just one, I'm sure.
clearly.
Hello, everyone. Coming up on today's show, we are joined by the director of Midwest Access Coalition, the person legally responsible for me, my boss, Diana Parker Kafka. Plus, comedian and filmmaker Kenice Mobley is here to talk us through the merits of baking our own bread.
Oh, my goodness. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Super excited
Also,
about that.
I like that our guest is legally responsible for you.
Mhm,
Right?
mhm.
Right?
I used to be legally responsible for her, but apparently I've been demoted.
Yeah.
I mean, you're busy doing things like parenting, Moji, and living
And you
your
got
life.
a new cat. It's that cat.
Oh my gosh. And I'm trying to keep that cat from eating all my plants. So far, I'm losing.
You know, the poison plants and the cats. Is the cat pooping in the plants yet?
No. He's not interested in that. He just thinks they're delicious. Most of my plants are pet safe. One is poisonous or toxic in large quantities, and that's his favorite.
Of
Of course
course.
it is.
And I feel like it's operative that our listeners know this is a male cat who's a ginger cat.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
None of my girl cats did this. No, this is a no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Self-destructive behavior.
Suffering 22 below zero. Please go outside and poop. And this morning, I watched Mr. Funk go outside, and then he peed, and then he went to go lick his penis. And for a minute, I thought it was going to be like Ralphie in A Christmas Story, where his mouth just froze
Stuck.
on his penis. And I was like, no, please don't make me do something I don't want to do. But it all worked out.
The blow dryer on the lowest setting.
Marie, what are Genghis
Oh.
and Shaka up to?
Okay, my cats, they are they're going to be 14 in a couple of months, and honestly, Shaka's driving me nuts, especially. Genghis is refined in old age. He's doing great. Shaka is climbing shelves. She's breaking things. She has a penchant for turning on the oven. She's my little Sylvia
Still?
Plath. Yeah. Little Sylvia Plath over here. So I don't know, guys. Tips for when your older cats are still very sentient and nimble. Send them in. Well, we'll send you a t-shirt. Advise us on pet policies. We'll send you an AAF t-shirt, guys.
100%.
That's a promise.
I also think they just pick up on our energy. And right now, the energy is such a mess that these pets are doing the
Mhm.
same thing.
Mhm.
And to add to that toxic energy that's happening is the one and only Molly Gaby, who is going to be giving us an incredible look at the news, or as we like to call it, maybe a steaming news dump. Hi, Molly.
Hi, friends. Happy to drop a steaming pile of this week's news on ya. These lads are big old turds, so we're going to treat the news accordingly. First up, Iowa politicians file a bill to make it a felony to manufacture, prescribe, sell, or dispense medication abortion. No word from them yet if juggling, dancing, or paving your driveway with abortion pills is allowable. Next up, in the face of shrinking access around the country, the students of George Washington University successfully advocated to get emergency contraception in vending machines. Hopefully soon you'll be able to get Cool Ranch Plan B and Flamin' Hot condoms. Maybe not the last one. That sounds bad. Next up, anti-abortion goons have started to protest outside of pharmacies that will carry the abortion pill. You know, if they think this is going to deter me from getting medication abortion, they are sorely mistaken. I already wait 20 minutes for a CVS employee to unlock the display case to get me deodorant. I'll wait. All of the trigger warnings for this next one, okay? Tennessee just added an exception for rape and incest to their abortion ban. What else did they add? A minimum 3-year jail sentence for anyone caught filing a, quote, false police report claiming assault in order to obtain an abortion. And we all know how cops love to believe survivors of sexual assault. And in shitty whistleblower news, a Kentucky nurse who thought she'd help the anti-abortion movement by volunteering at a fake clinic reveals that they were using expired disinfectant on probes to perform transvaginal ultrasounds. Yeah, you heard that right, because what do you do to a pregnant person that you've lied to and manipulated? Give them HPV. Well, that's shit for me. Back to you guys.
Wow. Hey, Molly, before you go quickly, this is the story of the week that just got us all like so cringy. I mean, how is it that you are a nurse and then you go to an anti-abortion fake clinic and then you're doing transvaginal ultrasounds on people?
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild to me that she was shocked because she has been trained in science and she went to go volunteer at a like science denying religiously run organization that doesn't even believe in evolution. So of course they wouldn't have a problem just dipping the probes in like Clorox bleach and just
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Also, like, it was terrifying when I read it. I was like, I'm sorry, 90% of all cervical cancer is caused by HPV. So they're saving the unborn and giving everybody cervical cancer. It's
ironic.
wild.
They're the ones that usually tell people that abortion causes cancer when looks like now they're the ones potentially causing
Fake
cancer.
clinics cause cancer.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the tweet.
I think that's a good place to go. And just also just be wary if somebody doesn't use the word sterilize when talking about a transvaginal probe and uses the phrase disinfectant. And when it's expired disinfectant, oh, holy shit. Molly, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Oh, shit. Well, that is some crazy shit.
That is disgusting news.
It is disgusting news and it's
Horrifying.
wild. So we're going to do something different this week where instead of doing 3 big stories that we're breaking down, we kind of are following this trend where with the escalation of attacks on abortion providers, including stalking, invasion of facilities, assault, and battery, since 2021, it has increased 128%. Now, there have been a series of arrests, and the thing that's a mess is we were sort of excited that these people were being arrested, but now as they've come to trial, either the charges have been dropped before trial, some are awaiting trial, and this week a man was acquitted on 2 counts of violating federal charges known as the FACE Act, which is an act from the 90s, which explicitly makes it a federal offense to block the entrances of reproductive health clinics and churches, because you couldn't just have it be a clinic.
No, of course not.
No.
Of course not, right?
Because blocking churches is a thing.
Yeah, because people are just laying down saying, don't go to church. So that's the only way they could get it through. So it's a federal crime, comes with an 11-year prison term and a $100,000 fine. And this dude, Mark Houck, a men's rights activist and chastity educator for teens, not to mention an anti-abortion powder keg, was caught on tape twice, punching a 72-year-old clinic escort to the ground. Now, Houck was found not guilty. Why? Because the altercation happened not exactly in front of the clinic, but away from the clinic as he was trying to move this screaming anti-abortion banshee sort of down the sidewalk and away from the clinic. It's maddening.
It's really terrifying. It really, really is. Also, like, you see the tape and it's like, oh, 40-year-olds just beat up on 70-year-olds. Like, what is your religion teaching you?
That especially, like the sheer violence that he immediately responded with to this person. Like, I clinic escort, Liz's clinic escort, like Moji, we all have. And like, we don't like it, but the fact that that's your go-to move, that's terrifying.
Well, and let me give you just a little background on this asshole, right? So he says he's justified because this escort was saying bad things in front of his kids, who he hauls to the clinic every Wednesday. And this dude has been going to this clinic for 20 years.
So you're saying he doesn't have a life?
So I'm saying he doesn't have a life. And I'm saying that it feels very messy. And like, I was like, who is this dude? And what kind of rhetoric does he bring? Right? Because we always hear these stories. And so I want to play a little clip of him 2 years ago in 2020 outside of this Planned Parenthood in Philadelphia. And listen to how he talks about abortion. And we'll have a little conversation about it after.
Hello, Mark Houck, the Kingsmen, proud member of the Pro-Life Union of Greater Southeastern Pennsylvania. Friends, it is not enough to say we are pro-life and that we vote such. So important. We must indeed daily intercede for the preborn child and yes, come to these places of death, the gates of hell, as we've been calling them, which cause us great sadness, but which can bring us so much joy in the choice of life. I was here with John Stanton, the great pioneer of the Pro-Life Union of Southeastern Pennsylvania. I watched him get thrown into these bars of this gate here. He brought the scars to the Lord, amen? Both physically and spiritually.
First of all, when you say things like gates of hell and all this other stuff, you know, he's yelling that all day, every day for 20 years. So the fact that an escort didn't punch him, that's not the story, is utterly shocking.
We're not talking about the gates of hell, though. We're just talking about a street in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, 12th and Locust.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's a West Elm there.
I was gonna say, like, not even above 70 degrees in the summer.
Yeah, calm down, buddy. But you know, this is the whole thing. When you hear that, you know, it's like, oh, poor pro-life man. And when he was talking about this John Stanton guy, who was like, you know, his hero and that he was there, John Stanton would use terms like faggot and racial slurs towards patients, staff, and partners. Even Pennsylvania Representative Brian Sims, who was a queer representative, he displayed graphic posters, medically inaccurate, often racist signs outside the clinic for years. And this is this guy's mentor. So I just want you to know that like he got off, and all of the media that reported on this story was right-wing media praising him. Not one person said maybe don't punch people. Maybe don't harm people.
That's what's the part that really got me when I was doing my research about this. I was like, every single article about this is written by the Federalist, by the Washington Examiner. Like all of these places that are not reputable news sites are basically telling biased news about this. And any of the people that I would trust to talk about this, it's like it's 2019 again, where they didn't even say the word crap is happening around abortions or in front of abortion clinics. It's like after Dobbs, we had a brief hiccup of people actually covering this. And apparently 7 months later, it's back to old news, the way it was before.
And just like, not to just be Captain Obvious, but this is the crew that is like 24/7 patting itself on the back for defending life and twice punched this dude to the sidewalk. And all they're excited about was that the guy that punched him got off on a technicality of whether or not he violated this other federal charge without having any regard for the fact that, like, why did he punch an old man?
I mean, I think we also know that when these right-wing activists talk about people who are pro-choice or pro-abortion or pro-bodily autonomy, they don't think of us as humans.
No, they don't. And the reason that we want to kind of break this down is that this was just happened this week. And this isn't the only case where charges were dropped, right, Marie?
Yes. In other Christian supremacy news, abusive clergy are still being empowered as another DOJ case against clinic invaders got dropped. We are specifically examining this ongoing terror that a certain Father Fidelis Moskinski, most recently in New England, has enacted. Just to give a little background, Fidelis is part of the Red Rose Invader group that marches with churches, trespasses at clinics, storms exam rooms, and sometimes padlocks gates and fills them with glue. You know, just what would Jesus do things? Now, Fidelis was facing prosecution in both New Jersey and New York State for terrorizing 3 different abortion providers, and we got some updates on that.
Jesus, it's bad. So Jersey, they dropped.
Yep.
Because, and this part is so fucking wild. The attorney for this guy and the other people that were with him said that the women in the abortion clinic had, quote, never been given information on the grave psychological consequences of abortion. Therefore, the invasion was not an invasion and they had a right to go in there and do it because they were saving them because the clinic lied to them. Can we just talk about
what are the great
that?
psychological consequences of abortion? I was unclear of these. I'd love some
being
elaboration.
happy with yourself, healing, being happy with yourself,
Relief.
moving on.
Relief.
I mean, it is, and it's like, I hope that gets challenged, because if you're going to say that, then does that mean that every time you order a drink at a bar, they have to lay out the psychological consequences of you ingesting alcohol, or the psychological consequences of marriage, or the psychological consequences of getting bad bangs? Like, at what point do you have to, I don't even, how does a jury say, oh, right, they didn't tell them things that aren't true?
Right. That's the thing. It's like, how do you drop a legal case because someone didn't say something that isn't true?
Right. Or you can't just, psychological consequences is a variable. You know what I mean? Like, there's people who can't go on roller coasters because they're freaked out by them. Somebody doesn't know every trigger of somebody who has agoraphobia. It's like all of it is so insane that this can't stand.
You know what I would have grave psychological consequences for? Someone being in the clinic when I went to have a medical procedure in a father suit acting crazy.
I like a father suit.
A father suit. That's what I'm calling it.
I like a father
suit. It's a father suit.
Those father suits. And it's not like a Mad Men thing. It's a friar's monk robe kind of situation.
I call it a father suit.
I mean, father suit will take.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's true. But Marie, I guess if there wasn't good news around the other charges on this dude, I would be in a whole panic. And there are some good news.
Yes, thankfully. So over in the state of New York, I don't want to say clear heads prevail here, but apparently they do. Fidelis, in November of 2021, went and entered a clinic in upstate New York, Westchester, got sentenced to 3 months for that. And right now we are waiting to hear on the sentencing that is going to come out of a July 2022 trespassing terrorization that he carried out also in New York State up in Hempstead. That was a situation where he placed locks and chains on the gated entrance, covered them with glue. Fire department cops had to come. He laid down. This guy did the whole 9 yards. We're waiting to hear he could possibly get up to a year in jail for that.
Also, let me go somewhere and put locks and glue on and see if I'd get lucky to get a year somewhere. That's
right.
Wild.
Like the sheer racism of that. Like, this is a white dude. He's 53 now at this point. Moji and I have physically met this person. He's over 6 feet tall. He is scary as hell. He terrorizes outside.
It's the father suit. It's the father suit.
Scary. And right. Can you imagine, Moji? If TSA found you with some locks?
And some glue? Can you?
No, he's just volatile. And even in the courtroom, he was like screaming, "The blood of Jesus is on your hands," and all this other shit. But, it's like, these are just, we just want to sort of raise alarm bells, because as a lot of these cases happened in 2020 and 2021, these arrests and stuff and these charges, they're coming to fruition now. And as we watch this egregious behavior of this Mark Houck go, and we watch Father Fidelis have kind of a split situation, we know that we've got a bunch more arrests coming to court. And Moji, like,
there are 21 indictments, actually, but connected to 2 different events that happened in both 2020 and 2022. And part of the reason that they're so emboldened is that previous administrations were just not in any way evoking the FACE Act. So, like, the whole Trump administration, people were just doing crazy crap and rocking, and, like, there was no federal oversight, no federal looking into it. And so people didn't notice that these are not individual protesters from different states, that these are people who travel from state to state with this bullshit.
Right. They're grifting federal monsters.
They're grifting federal monsters, and they literally just travel with their what is it, a freak show? What is that? That's a terrible thing to say. Carpetbaggers.
Yeah.
Carpetbaggers, that much better to say.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I feel like carpetbagger is better to say.
I'm unclear of the current slurs in this
environment.
Okay, and I think it was a little bit because of the January 6th overlap. And of course, Dobbs, finally, the Department of Justice is like, what the fuck? Oh, shit. So they looked at some previous charges. And there are 2 cases in particular I'm talking about. One was in October 2020 at the DC Surgery Center. There were, I believe, 11 defendants there who basically went into the clinic. They had pictures of the doctor with a wanted sign, And this was the one, I think everyone will remember, we talked about this, where the POW, Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, they stole these fetal remains and then they did all these fetus unboxings. I don't know.
115 fetuses and then did YouTube videos like the worst Hobby Lobby things you've ever fucking seen.
Ever. So there's a FACE Act indictment for these people. And again, I have no idea when the trials are coming, when the next steps are, but these are things that are in play and in motion. And then also in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, and this was just last March, so we're not even at the 1-year anniversary of this, a bunch of invaders kind of created a blockade at the Carafem. And they had an older anti in a wheelchair that they just blocked in front of the door. And then they filmed the thing, because this is the other crazy thing that they do. They've been so emboldened. They've had so little oversight that they just film it and stream it on Facebook. And in Tennessee, it took the police 4 hours to remove these protesters. So you know what'll cause grave psychological harm? Going in for an appointment and having to wait 4 hours because random people have attached themselves to the lobby or whatever and are getting in the way of you getting the services that you were prepared to have. It took 4 hours. And part of why it took 4 hours too is one of the antis used to be a policeman. And so the police were just chilling. They were like, oh, this is our buddy. We have an excellent relationship. No
Little
reason to. And this is why we need federal intervention. So I just want to say that these are cases we're watching.
Yeah. These are cases we're watching. And also understand that this took 2 years and then about a year for some of these to actually get on the docket and stuff. And meanwhile, some people spray paint fake clinics who, by the way, the fake clinics like we were just talking about in the earlier segment with Molly that are disinfecting transvaginal.
Spreading HPV for fun.
They all of a sudden are now declared health clinics and fall under the umbrella of federal violations if you harm them. Those charges came up like lickety split.
Like that in no time.
So the disparity of justice coming to clinics who are harmed so much versus fake clinics who do nothing and people spray paint them is really maddening.
It's really maddening.
It is. So we'll be following as these come up, and we're going to be having some guests on the show who can really deep dive into this. But we just wanted to give you a lay of the land because our media hasn't covered these things at all. And it's really a big deal. And the only information that we got was, thank God we are on the ground filming half of this shit. And 2, we had to read terrible press and then go researching to hear about the people that they are, reinventing their humanity. If you just watch Fox News and Catholic News and Washington Examiner, you'd think that the grievances that's happening to these people on the reg would just be there, but it's not. So we'll be following how all these stories unfold. So stay with us, listen and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And as a reminder, as always, everything's going to be in the show notes, and the best place for you to get the most up-to-the-minute resources on accessing abortion care and funding your abortion care, go to ineedana.com. But now it's time to transition to our guest. More importantly, the guest who is going to give Marie her performance review right here on the podcast.
That's right. Joining us today is Executive Director of Midwest Access Coalition, abolitionist, and Marie's boss, Diana Parker Kafka. Diana, hi. Thank you for joining us.
Diana.
Hi,
Marie. So glad you're here. So we're so excited to talk to you. Could you, just to start, give our listeners a very quick download of the support that Midwest Access Coalition provides?
Yeah, so we are, as the name implies, based in the Midwest, and we provide practical support for people who are traveling to or from the Midwest for abortion care at any gestation for any age whatsoever. That includes booking hotels for accommodations, having volunteer drivers or getting them Uber and Lyfts to and from the airport or clinic, childcare costs, food, toiletries, whatever they need, whatever is a barrier between them getting to their provider, we try to work with them to remove it for them. And so that's what our coordinators do every day, pretty much a 7 days a week service. And I'm really proud of the work we've been doing.
I just wanted to make it really clear. I mean, obviously, Marie talks about practical support on this pod every week, but you don't pay for abortion care itself, just all the other ancillary costs of getting to your care.
Right. Because often the costs of getting to your care are more than the abortion itself, especially now. So when a clinic knows that a patient isn't able to pay for their procedure, they're likely unable to pay for their travel as well. And so that's where we come in.
And now specifically, we're 7 months past the Dobbs decision, the third trimester of Dobbs, I guess. I'm wondering, I know how it is working for Mac, what I've seen, things that have been different, but you have a big picture perspective as our director. What have you seen that's changed within our work since Dobbs, and what's stayed exactly the same?
Well, what's exactly the same is that abortion is essential healthcare, so much so that people are still traveling for it every day, but traveling hundreds of miles more for it. So banning abortion in Missouri doesn't mean Missourians won't need or access abortion care. My colleagues and the people who came before us built a whole separate healthcare system because of this fact. When people don't have access to abortion, they can lose the ability to care for their children, because the vast majority of our clients are mothers. They can lose their jobs. They could be further stuck in coercive or violent relationships, or have their health significantly jeopardized. What changed right after the decision is that we saw our caller volume quadruple. But not only that, we were starting to see people who had ectopic pregnancies who couldn't get care from doctors in their own states. The anti-choice laws are written very vaguely in order to create this confusion and fear that stops providers from doing anything for the health of their patients. People heard about the young people in Ohio who had to go to another state for abortion care. And I've been telling people that those cases were not only real, they weren't aberrations. So when antis try to shift the attention to, well, where were the parents? And don't get me started on how far this country has gone to keep resources from families in need.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also attempting to absolve themselves of any of the horrific consequences of making abortion care illegal or inaccessible. It's a horrific thing to force a 12-year-old to, quote, make the best of it and force them to give birth when they don't want to. And it's horrific to do to anyone.
And Diana, something I love so much about Midwest Access Coalition is that y'all are one of the most destigmatizing organizations around abortion and talking about it. And we often take the lead of how you do, because being in the Midwest, you had a big year, right? You serviced over 1,600 patients. And especially with Dobbs and clinics closing, we're looking at people having abortions in second and third trimesters and having to get people, especially out of the Midwest where there are no third trimester providers. I don't consider Colorado the Midwest. Does anyone? It's kind of the West.
No, it's
not.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes they kind of swim in there. We're the No Mountain Festival over here. But talk about the challenges of helping people, because a lot of times people just can't get the resources they need to access until then. Talk a little bit about providing that care for folks and why it's so important, because it's the most, they try to demonize it constantly. And, we hear just like abortion all day, every day, no matter when you need it. It's your abortion, have it.
Yeah. And that's our attitude too. We don't ask a lot of questions. We don't even ask them like what trimester they're in. It's like, you have an appointment. Your doctor said it's going to take this amount of days. Okay, so we know just how many nights of hotel you're going to need. Based on where you're at, we know what the travel route is going to be. And so we sort of have a meet the client where they're at sort of vibe. And they usually come to us already just dead set on what they need to do. And it's just like, okay, we're going to just do the logistics. And if they need emotional support, we also provide that as well. But for the vast majority of our clients, they know they want the abortion. They're fine getting the abortion. They just can't afford it. And so we just say, okay, we'll just take care of it for you. This is absolutely unnecessary for you to stress out over. This is a very safe procedure, safer than pregnancy and birth. So let's do it. And
I love it.
I mean, we know that by the time people seek out care, they know what they want to do. That's why waiting periods are such bullshit, because by the time you've called a doctor, you know exactly what you need. And then the waiting period assumes that you hadn't figured that out before you picked up the phone and made phone calls.
Well, and also too, the like we've learned, or I've learned, and I think you too, Moji, all of us have learned so much from Marian doing this particular work. And it's really great to be an advocacy organization around what y'all do, because explaining to folks who are well-meaning, who would like, come and stay on my couch, where do I help do that? You know, you have the language, you have the tools, you have all of the knowledge to help people navigate the abortion that they get to have with the privacy they deserve and with all the support they deserve. And I just think that's so awesome.
Yeah, and we do have patients who get to the provider and talk to the provider and actually change their minds. And those are our clients and we take care of them. There is no, like, once they decide that they need an appointment and once they get to the clinic, like, there's no going back. No, doctors, abortion funds are super supportive of any choice you make. And, you know, don't feel guilty about using whatever money that we use to get you there. This is part of the process and this is what you deserve.
Yeah.
Exactly.
MAC is a reproductive justice organization, which fundamentally those are the tenets of reproductive justice, right? You can decide what you need. And of course, there's no point of no return. And of course, we understand that health equity can only be achieved by dismantling these existing systems of oppression. And of course, that obstructs reproductive choice. It obstructs so many other choices that people can make. Prior to coming to MAC as a client coordinator, wow, 2016, what days?
Baby Diana, baby Diana.
Like a billion years ago.
Yeah, me and Marie started, that's when I met Marie, and we just like started this program, the two of us.
We literally cooked mac and cheese for because Mac, that was our fundraiser. Diana and I like were next to each other with pans of mac and cheese working the hotline together.
Yeah.
Before that, we've heard, we know that you were working with organizations to abolish police and abolish prisons. And I would love for you to talk about the ways that your work in both prison abolition and police abolition intersects with your work in reproductive justice and abortion access, particularly.
I went to school to become an OB-GYN and just realized the medical establishment was not for me. But I've always had this drive to support people who are parenting, especially those I grew up in Rogers Park. It's, very diverse. It's very Black and brown. So I'm just like, especially people in my community who have such a hard time finding resources for basic needs. And so I saw that a lot of the solutions happen on the ground, locally with your communities. You can do a lot with just showing up at a police station, providing jail support for people. And I know that during my time on the board of the Chicago Community Bond Fund, that a lot of people in prison are parents, are mothers. And what they have to, being torn away from their families is really horrific and has life-altering, lifelong consequences. And if our society doesn't decide to put our resources, and we are a very wealthy country, put our resources towards the folks in these communities that have been stripped of resources for decades and decades, if we don't start giving back to them, giving back to us, reparations, and continue to build cop cities and cop academies and just default give them a bigger budget every year, there's just no way this country is going to survive that. And so I got my start with a street medic group in Chicago that provided medical support for people who were protesting for change and continue to protest for change, because we're finding still in Democratic controlled states and cities, it's not enough. It's not enough. And so yeah, I'm all about the people power, being on the streets, yelling in speakerphones, locking things down. That's where I come from. And it's all connected. It's all connected.
And I'm glad you said Democratic controlled cities. I live in Minneapolis with a garbage mayor who is, sweeping the unhoused in the middle of winter, who is doing no-knock warrants. I mean, it's a mess, right? And then laying his body over the coffin of George Floyd at the funeral, just egregious shit that you're like, dude, no. And what happens, honestly, is cities that have these liberal pockets when they go to the voting booth, they are racist as fuck. These liberals who go in there, they're like, I really do want to be protected. I don't want to actually do the work to abolish this broken system and uplift it and come up with a new way to, to community safety. They just don't, it's hard, people. Everything good is hard. So let's start from that point. And then if we all do it, right? I mean, it's like, come on.
Yeah. I feel in my bones that the majority of the country can be aligned on values. It's just that the antis, the right wing, have been very systematic in stopping us from gaining power and uniting and changing things. So I think we're at a really crucial point in our country is like, what are we all going to choose? We're on the brink of some change, some fundamental change, because our parties are just so, I don't know, disengaged from what people on the ground are seeing and wanting, that we just have to keep showing up and keep being louder and louder and louder and help each other. Don't veto a halfway house in your community and say that you're pro equality and equity. I was in Minnesota the other week for Secretary Becerra's visit from the Health and Human Services Department. And our Minnesota coordinator, Emily, spoke at the roundtable, and she did call out the houselessness and the resources that Minneapolis keeps from people who need those resources. And there's no reason not to open them up and share those resources. It's just like getting over the liberal hump of doing something, even if it's going to affect your life. But yeah, you got to.
I mean, in New York, I feel like we're building houses at a furious pace. They're just unaffordable for most people. And it's like, wait, why do we all have to live under construction, but there's no housing for people who need housing? Like, why do we have to live under constructions and also there are unhoused people across the street from this construction? It makes no sense.
Well, and everybody on this call, all of our activism, and I think it's, if we could get more people to understand that in the work that you focus on, when you're directly involved in the lives of people and you get to know them, and it's what gets you up every day, and getting into the spaces of working in community and helping any way you can platform folks so that they can, take control of their own lives. That's why we get to do this every day. It's why I often say sometimes that like this work is self-care. People are like, how do you rest? I was like, I find it very rewarding to just talk to people that I can in some way uplift their story and uplift their lives. And once you can make those connections, I think getting people there, that's the work. That's part of the work.
I will say when the Dobbs ruling came down, I was so happy to be working in this space and feeling like that I'm somehow, more effective than just sort of sitting on the line and screaming into the void. But not everybody has the luxury we have to work in the abortion space. And Diana, do you have any ideas or suggestions about ways for people who maybe don't have like a lot of money to throw at it, could get involved in either MAC or other broader pro-abortion support outside of offering their couch to strangers?
Well, I tell everyone to be the annoying person who talks about abortion access all the time. I've done it and my friends still like me. So, try it. Changing minds and mobilizing those minds into action to hold their local governments accountable for the wants of their community members is going to be the way to change this country. The anti-choice movement uses the word abortion way more than we do. And so you can help liberate abortion by simply talking about it with your friends, with your family. As far as volunteer efforts go, I know organizations are more in need of like back-end admin support, like marketing or data entry. So if people have those types of skills, it's less glamorous, but it's incredibly helpful when you can relieve that burden from very tiny organizations. Often they are themselves volunteers, as we were for a while. Email your local abortion fund and ask if they need support in the area you're skilled in. Don't just email and say, I want to help. Just
Right.
like be very specific about what you can do so that when it comes to, I don't know, if I have a need for creating some Canva document for a last minute event, I know, oh, this person emailed me and said they were really good at marketing and doing events. And so I have someone to specifically to think of to go to. If we don't reply, don't take it personally. I currently have 400 plus unread emails. When pre-Dobbs, I was patting myself in the back for getting it under 20. And now it's just, no, goodbye. That's a different life. That was a
Inbox
different
zero is a myth.
Yes.
I will also say, if you are loving everything that Diana is saying about Midwest Access Coalition and you do want to do something, you can also email programs@aafront.org and tell us what's happening, and we can help onboard folks so that their capacities can be, if Diana's got 400 emails, maybe then we can get to Marie and say, Marie, this person, what do you think? We can sort of ease you in ways that the org may not have capacity to do. So always use us as a resource too, to get to the people you want.
Yeah. People probably don't know the history of abortion funds in this country, but like I said before, they created a whole healthcare system for abortion care and with volunteer labor. So when Dobbs hit, the average staff size of the funds was probably just a few people. And now they're being faced with tens of thousands of people who need more support. And it's going to take time to adjust to that. But yeah, be patient with your local abortion fund, please.
Diana, thank you so much for joining us. I wish we had more time.
I always wish we had more time.
We didn't
every
even get
time.
to Marie's review yet.
Oh my God. Do you want to just quickly barf that out, Diana?
I mean,
quick.
That should be a 420
Punctual,
activity, first off.
Works well with others.
Has cats, check.
Has cats, check. Likes
Seems to be a
abortion.
requirement for us. Yeah.
I'm so glad you could join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can follow the work of Midwest Access Coalition on Instagram @Midwest Access Coalition and on Twitter @Midwest Access. And remember how we were talking about the lack of third trimester care? There's a fundraiser for an emerging all-trimester clinic in New Mexico that will be the first employee-owned clinic and Black, Indigenous, people of the global majority run. Check out the GoFundMe link in our show notes.
That's incredible. Well, we're going to transition to the Potosphere's favorite weekly game show, 6 Degrees of Abortion. It's simple. It's a game where Marie and Moji choose a news story from the week, and then I have 6 chances to try to tie it to abortion. All right, what do you got?
This was a really tough week this week because there were 2 things that I really want to talk about, but Marie and I decided that this was the best. So about a week ago, Eddie Murphy was on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was asked who was the most naturally funny person he ever met. And Eddie Murphy said Red Fox, who is an extraordinary comic and who has passed. And we would like you to maybe link Red Fox to abortion.
Really?
You don't think you can do it? I mean, come on. He's worked with everybody.
No, I mean, I can say Red Fox was a stand-up comedian and I'm a stand-up
Oh,
comedian.
come on.
We need a little more.
We need
of
a little more steps than that.
Let's see. Red Fox, tie Red Fox to abortion. Well, I mean, Red Fox worked at the same room when he did his long-running show that Roseanne Barr did her long-running show. And one of my very first gigs opening for a national headliner was Roseanne Barr in Minneapolis. So Red Fox to Roseanne, Roseanne to me.
There we go. That's the work we
That
want to see,
works.
Liz.
Okay.
That's
No,
that's like
I
me
know,
saying,
because I
"Me and
was like,
Eddie
wait,
Murphy
that's
are
too
both
easy.
black."
What are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing to me? That's too easy.
Yep.
So
I would like to note this is by no means an endorsement of Roseanne Barr.
Oh my fucking God. Let me just say right off the bat, let's be real clear. I opened for her in the 80s and
It was a
I don't know
different
what
Roseanne
happened to
Barr.
Roseanne, but I do not endorse anything that Roseanne Barr has said in the past 20 years and have removed myself from all Roseanne Barr situations.
Except for this one instance right now.
Except
on
for this
6
one instance where I had to
degrees.
pull it out of my ass so that I could be a winner. So that I could be a winner. Oh my God. Well, thank you.
Yes, we will take that. Liz's win was brought to you by one of our newest fake sponsors, Mochi.
More than ever, men are suffering from dysplasia. Dysplasia is caused by wanton, whorish carelessness with your people pudding. Semen is being discarded and fetuses aborted willy-nilly by woke hipster broads. Well, dysplasia is about to become a thing of the past thanks to the Apple Airbag Tag, the device that tracks your sperm from ejaculation to procreation, because that's where it should end up every time. Not unlike the chip you implant in your rescue pup, the bag tag is implanted into your batter sack, and our patented nanotechnology tracks your potential progeny from blast off to baby. So when one of your Olympians reaches that ovary, you'll get an alert the moment it's implanted. Thanks to the Airbag Tag's GPS technology, godly positioning system, you can map your lady vessel's every move. If she's tracked at an abortion clinic or a pharmacy, a ping is sent to you with plenty of time for you to intervene and rescue your offspring from this wicked baby mule who selfishly thought her body was hers. Buy your Airbag Tag now, and you'll get the ding-a-ling ring for extra protection. Free! Just place the camera next to their doorbell and enjoy 24/7 surveillance of your female's bathing suit area. Doubles as an easy reference to locate the clitoris so you can avoid it. The Airbag Tag, putting an end to dysplasia one spurt at a time. That is so good.
I mean, dysplasia.
It's a real concern. It's a real concern.
We need to do a benefit, Marie. Maybe we want to
We should.
right? I mean, fuck that clinic that's doing third trimester abortions.
Yeah.
Dysplasia.
Maybe we can get of In the Eyes of the Angels singing from Sarah McLachlan. I feel like.
Yes.
As it's just squirting into somebody's face.
Yeah.
In the eyes.
Kiddie pools. Yeah.
That's a mess. That is a fucking mess.
I'm imagining the ice bucket challenge, ejaculate, like all these things.
This is, oh my gosh, not the ice bucket challenge.
Gotta keep that sperm at viable temperature.
I don't even know what's happening here, but we've gone off the rails.
Yeah.
And but the good news is I think that our comic does not shy away from talking about the ejaculate in all of its forms. So let's transition to our next guest.
She sticks with the important topics. Joining us to talk about psychology and loving your mom is comedian and filmmaker Kenice Mobley. Hello, Kenice.
Hey, Kenice.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, 2022 was a pretty bad year for a lot of people, but you wrapped it up with releasing an album.
Yes.
And it was called Follow-Up Questions. So what topics are you exploring in it? And did the event of the year make it into the final product?
Okay, so my album is silly. It is raunchy, without a doubt. And people have called it a mix of like high and low brow, I guess. When you say the big event, what are you referring to?
So this is an abortion podcast.
Okay.
So the big event was the fall of Roe v. Wade.
Got it. Okay. I say that because I had a stroke in July and I had to recover from that. And so for me personally, that was the biggest event of my year. But yes, I see how that would be referred to as the big event. My apologies. Okay.
I also see how you would maybe have thought a stroke was a big event too.
I also feel like we should talk about the fact that you're how old? 17? And had a stroke in July.
I am 17 times 2 plus some.
Okay. But like, I know it's so interesting because I know you were at a conference that I truly love when this happened. Because I used to be on the board of the organization and I used to go. And so do you want to talk about it?
Sure, I can talk about it.
What happened?
And also, that's awesome that you're on the board of that event. It's a really cool event where they get people who work in nonprofit, people who work in the arts, people who work in non-governmental agencies. And we just sit around and we think about ways to make the world a better place. And so that's really, really cool.
It's called Creative Change. Yeah.
Yes. We had just I had gone horseback riding up the mountains and they had done this thing where they released these birds. And I was on the phone talking to my mom, like, well, the bird thing was a little bit much. But then I had a stroke while I was on the phone with my mom. walking through. And I mean, it's lucky that I thought I was completely alone, but thankfully someone was walking up behind me and saw that I just dropped my phone. So all my mom heard was someone picking up the phone and being like, hello? Do you know Kenice? Does she have Bell's palsy? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then she's like, I think I have to call the hospital right now. And then
That's wild, because in your comedy, you talk about your mom being your best friend, and for her to be there for that big event is wild.
Yeah.
You couldn't have timed that any better.
It's kind of worrying, because if it had been like a few minutes later, because I told my mom I'd talk to her as I walked to my room, I would have gone in my room, locked the door, and then no one would have found me for a long time. So it was very convenient.
If it was after the bird thing, it's when it gets dark, and you all need to know that they put you in these cabins where you're navigating it's really dark, and you're navigating up to your own cabin, and the cabins are very much far apart from another cabin. It's really cool, but you don't expect to be having a stroke.
Right.
So tell me what happened and what your recovery was like.
So they still don't know what happened. I have doctor's appointments all the time because they are truly like, we don't know why your body did that, and we hope it doesn't do it again. Fingers crossed. And so for me, my biggest symptom post is that I don't have feeling on the right side of my body. So if someone tries to get my attention, they have to push me essentially for me to notice that they're tapping me to get my attention. Otherwise, I just don't feel it if they just are gently patting my skin, because I don't have feeling on the right.
Wow.
That is really wild.
So I guess it's cool that you were able to be in the process of your comedy album.
I had just recorded it. Yeah.
And I just love the fact that comics will bring their lives, whatever happens, to this. So was there even any lessons learned, or it was just holy shit, now it's the new me and here I am?
It certainly feels like your time is limited. Use it in a way that is meaningful to you. Don't the robotic wheel that I think that I was on to some extent before, where it's just do work to do work, or get booked to get booked in other places. It's now very much so what do you want to be doing? How can you do that? You don't know how much time you have. Something can happen and change your entire life. So maybe focus on I'm forming relationships, and this is the dorkiest thing. Well, whatever. I'm going to say a lot of dorky things, but this is a movie I liked a lot when I was growing up. It's called The Thomas Crown Affair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I always was
attractive older people being older and very attractive. Yes.
I was by the time I'm 40, I'm going to be like Rene Russo. Not in the way that I have millions of dollars, but in the way that I'm in charge and I dress awesome. And so I'm reached out to my friends. I think I'm more intentional about cementing those relationships. I also have gone shopping and just done some things to say, you know what? That's not too far off. Be that person by the time you're 40.
I also love that you're talking about the remake of the Thomas Crown.
Yes.
I'm just going to point out, old woman with hair. She's talking the Dennis Leary Thomas Crown Affair. Yeah.
I was thinking of the one Kenice was talking up. So
okay.
The Pierce Brosnan.
And Rene Russo.
Yes.
Adult people looking very attractive.
They look amazing.
She was 50 when they filmed it, I think. And I was is that what I have to look forward to?
You know what? Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm almost there. Kenice, follow-up question. As you are someone who's always combining your comedy with social issues, climate, abortion, race, with all of the shit that's going on right now, what has you screaming into the void on a daily basis?
It's just completely disingenuous, some of the moral outrage about anything that the Republican Party does that makes me get so mad, because it's you're not mad about that. You're not. Stop lying to me. Stop lying to yourself. You're not mad about that, because so many people within your own party have done these exact things. But anytime someone who's you perceive to be on the other side does something, you're this is an outrage. Da, 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 da. And it's are you kidding me? You're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. Why are you doing this? It's this petty point scoring, backbiting stuff. That's the thing that makes me am I taking crazy pills? What's going on? Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm. The answer is yes. You are taking crazy pills then.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, they're
We all
totally
are.
sane, Kenice. I don't understand anything you just said. That just feels like you're just gaslighting us right now.
Okay. Sorry.
They have the moral high ground. Please reset. Reset.
So your background, you studied history and psychology, so you're bringing
Yes.
that to the table. And I'm curious how in your writing, in your performing, in the film, because you do lots of amazing work. I'm wondering
Thank you.
how those structures, not necessarily education based, but like theoretical, like how does that affect you in your work?
Well, I think the psychology and the history both play into it a lot, actually, which is a surprise to me because I got those 2 degrees and then I was like, I'm not doing anything with them. But I'm just genuinely interested in how people behave the way that they do. Why have we all bought into certain patterns of thinking? And also how that changes over time. On the album, I do ask a question about cum and what you should do with it. And just
Depending where it lands or just in general.
Yeah.
well, no, I asked.
Or the year, is it 1985 Thomas Crown Finger? What year is it?
Well, yes, exactly. So I was like, because I talk about like, okay, if a woman were to ask you to come into a jar, how would you react to that? And then I asked like, which is safer today, coming inside a woman or coming inside a jar conveniently located on the bedside table? So it's just like these.
Is the woman Jenny Thomas? Because I think that will vary it
True.
forever, the answer.
True. So just looking at how that idea has changed over time and how for some reason people state certain preferences, but the background completely contradicts that. So this stuff interests me and I want to get to the core of why people are thinking the way that they're thinking.
You know, in this day and age, your brain must never shut off. Having that expertise of psychology, assessing what's happening, the gaslighting from the way that our country works, the way that people are just manipulating everything. Even like you can't even be on Twitter because that Elon Musk is like, it's, oh my God, is it a hindrance or is it helpful?
I think it's helpful, but also just acknowledging, is your anger in this moment going to fix the problem? Or is it just like buying into this cycle? And it's like, okay, yes, this thing does make me mad. My first impulse is like, but they're wrong. How do they not know that they're wrong? But I have to take a step. Okay, what ways are actually actionable that will affect change? And what ways will I say, there are some wrong people in the universe? And that it seems to be how the universe works because there are always people who are thinking wrong. It's never been 100% right thinking. And I have to accept this. And you know what? I'm going to take this as an opportunity to look at my life and say, are there parts of my life where I might be buying into some antiquated thinking, some problems like that, and focusing on what I actually can change versus what I unfortunately cannot.
That is really like intentional thinking.
Yeah.
It's attempting. I'm not always successful. Sometimes I get mad and I'm going to bed and I'm pissed off at Twitter. And it's like, who's this serving? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, I want to bring you back to mad and crazy for a minute. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think of this current House of Representatives? Because that is a crazy place.
Analyze that.
Yeah.
Okay, I love the idea of a woman or a person of color failing 13 times and then being like, yeah, let's try it again. Let's do it again.
Yeah,
let's give it another shot because this guy's got to be the person. And we're just going to keep making everyone go through this thing for this one person. That would never happen with a woman or a person of color. Before the first time, they'd be like, it doesn't look like we got the votes. So we're probably going to go with somebody else. Sorry, goodbye. We tried diversity. Bye. Never again.
Or we're going to go with the guy that's going to lose 15 times, the white guy.
They threw a black guy in there once for like 1 second and they were like, okay, we did it. We did it. Diversity achieved. Let's go back to a couple more failed votes for this.
That makes me mad. Yeah. It's like, what? Really?
Also, the gaslighting of this document, there's this secret 3-page document that has all the deals that McCarthy made with all of these like orcs, right? And he's like, there is no document. And it's like, but except for like 8 people have said that they read it. And like, I'm super unclear about like, and then one guy even said like, I read it. I don't know if everyone's gotten it yet. And then McCarthy's like, there's no document. It's like, why is this always, people who can just say lies?
Yes.
With just this confidence of like, but there's not a document.
There's
It's
not
like,
a document.
but I have it in my hands.
Yeah, like you could say, oh, there were different things in progress, but there's nothing that we actually. You could say a variety of things to make that a better lie, but to after people have said there is a thing, to simply say there's not a thing, that's bad lying. Be better at lying. I mean,
yeah, be better at lying.
maybe don't lie. Maybe don't lie.
Or maybe don't lie. I don't give them that faith. I don't have that faith in them that they are not going to do it. So if they're going to do it better. I don't know. I hope they fail. Okay, sorry. That's
Kenice, it's like so easy to, as comics, the root of comedy is like fucked up terribleness usually. We kind of like do that. So I'm going to switch it up. And especially since it sounds like since your stroke, you've really had a reset of where you find joy, where you're going to prioritize your energy. So like, let's give people some hope going out, right? Let's wrap this up with like, where does Kenice, why am I talking about you in the third person? Where do you find your joy? Like when you're like in that space, like how do you reset and tap in, and what brings you happiness? Even like crappy shows, self-examination, anything.
okay. I have a list. I get into dorky shit so much and I love it. So recently I've decided I'm going to learn how to bake bread, and really good bread. So I have been baking bread in my apartment over and over. And when I feel like the bread is getting a little too old, I cut it up. I make bread pudding from scratch, and it's delicious. And I love bread pudding. And so I eat a lot of bread and bread pudding, but I figured out how to get it nice and crusty. I figured out how to have the bread have the structure that I want, like the cut across that I like. And so I just want it to be like this most recent time, it was a little too glutinous. So just getting that balance correct in my kneading and the process of making it. So I love that.
Okay, wait, hold on a second.
Yes.
What kind of bread?
Just regular like white bread. I'm not
no sourdough.
I'm not doing that yet. I will do that, but first I just want to get the very basic.
I hate sourdough, so I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's just regular ass bread, but it is like, okay, I'm gonna do this in iterations, and every time I do it, it does get better because I do learn things about the timing, the amount of yeast, the amount of kneading, all that stuff. But eventually I will, and it's by like the fall, I will be able to make a nice hard crust, good structured loaf of bread, and I am learning how to do that. And it gets my anger out to just knead it because I don't have a bread machine or a mixer, so it's just me and my hands just punching some dough, and that really does get the anger out. I'm gonna be honest.
So can you feel the dough in in both hands when you're doing it? Can you feel in your hand?
Yeah. You feel
cool.
the structure, but then I'll put it in this big metal bowl that I have and just punch the crap out of it.
Do you envision it being certain people?
Mm-hmm. More like just general things in life that I don't like gaslighting, like not caring about other people, like only fighting for your rights, but not necessarily the rights of other people. That kind of stuff, just like what strikes me as pretty selfish thinking. And I'm just punching that.
I love it. All right. So that is it for a skilled person. What's a simple thing someone can do?
This is easy. It's just okay. But also, okay, other dorky things. I'm so happy that you asked. Okay. So I have for a couple of years done vision boarding parties, but I realized I think I just like collaging. So it's like we can do a vision board, sure, but I think so I have stacks of old magazines and stuff like that, and just going through those, and I have a little paper cutter thing, and just being like, okay, say I also got all these frames from work because they were about to throw them out, so I have all these frames that I have to fill. But say one is like places, and so it's like, okay, I'm pulling out these things as a background, these things are in the foreground. How do I want to layer this image up in such a way that's interesting visually, but also does represent kind of what I want moving forward? And I love it so much. And maybe this is too much, but I'll take like a fourth of an edible because I'm a weak baby, and then I'll just little scissors, little cutter, little this, little glue. Oh, that music, an audiobook, that's a nice night. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenice, I see nothing wrong with this night. This night sounds,
okay.
This all sounds fun.
Yeah, down to the fourth of an edible, because I also can't take any more than that.
Yeah. You and Moji would be perfect together.
Yeah, just real chill. Just real chill.
Just to edge off, but I don't actually want to be like crazy. Then I'll just be useless.
Oh my God.
Kenice, this is the best list, I think, of good things that I've heard in a while. Definitely this year. So, Kenice, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Kenice.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
So fun.
Kenice's album, Follow Up Question, is available on Bandcamp, Apple, and Spotify. To find her tour dates, go to KeniceMobley.com. And to keep up with her daily doings, you can follow her at Kenice Mobley on all the socials.
That's our show. Thanks so much for listening. We are here for you as we navigate these dark days. We want to be a reliable info hub and a source of humor as we face some really hard times ahead. We're in this together. We got you. Thank you so much to Diana for joining us. You can follow the work of Midwest Access Coalition at IG at Midwest Access Coalition. And all of their contact info is in the show notes.
Subscribe. Write us a review. Give us 5 stars. It's the best way for our podcast to reach more people. And by doing so, you are helping more people learn about this assault on abortion access. To keep up with all the latest repro news, follow us on the socials at Abortion Front on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. FBK Live is edited by Remy DesTournay and is produced by Abortion Access Front.
Looking for where you might fit in to do some abortion activism? Look no further than our 5-part training series, Operation Save Abortion, available in video and podcast form. Gather friends, watch or listen together, and follow the activity guide for a full experience. Details on the series are at operationsaveabortion.com. And make sure you check out the activist calendar as well, which is chock full of local and national actions and educational opportunities.
Looking for some action? Like be a part of the solution action? Here's your last chance reminder to sign up for one of Abortion AF and Center for Popular Democracy's upcoming trainings on bird dogging. Bird dogging involves holding your elected officials accountable, finding out their position on an issue, and or pressuring them to take action for a cause you care about, like abortion. There are 2 options to attend, one on the evening of Tuesday, February 7th, and one on the evening of Thursday, February 9th. Sign up at the link in our show notes.
Next week, we'll be joined by Elise Salisbury, Director of Programs at Sister Reach, to discuss reproductive justice and faith-based advocacy. And autodidact rapper, comedian, and motivational speaker Jean Grey will be joining us.
And lastly, join our Patreon. You'll support great content, get cool FBK merch, exclusive FBK merch, and experiences. All pledges support this pod and all of our activism at Abortion Access Front. Pledge at patreon.com/Feminist Buzzkills.
We leave you with Nick Fuentes, a man who's out here showing his whole ass by showing he's a Holocaust and homosexuality denier.
We love Hitler, not in a fucking gay way, okay? We love Hitler in a Christian way, you freak, not in a gay way. Anyway, in like a awesome way, okay? In like a we love Trump way, you fucking liberal.
Feminist Buzzkills Live, the podcast from Abortion Access Front. When BS is poppin', we pop off. New episodes drop Friday. If you want to support our podcast and all the work of Abortion Access Front, like, subscribe, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.